What's up, people? Good morning. Happy Saturday. Happy Labor Day weekend. I see everybody traveling. Y'all is, really out there doing the thing. Everybody's doing their damn thing. And it's good to see that everybody's still enjoying their lives with no masks on during the pandemic. It's good to see that. You all don't bring that shit back to the rest of us, okay? So it's never too late to put your mask on, even if you're vaccinated. I'm not ready to sit here and educate you all on, some of the traps that I think being too comfortable can really place us in. But so I'm not ready to go into the whole vaccination thing. But good morning. Enjoy yourselves. Be safe. Come back to everybody. And, make sure you do your due deals while you're out there doing your thing. So, welcome to another episode of the Morning Get Down. This is just something random that I do. This is nothing official. Sometimes in the morning, when I'm up and I have different things on my mind, I like to sort of get down into the weeds of the topic and just kind of just let everybody know what my thoughts are and where I see where there's an obviously there's an opportunity to have a conversation on certain things, and we just go in. I don't even need a million people on this thing. For me, it's just an opportunity to just share my thoughts with people, and if you come back to it and see it, you come back to it and see it. But this morning, I wanted to talk about self-sabotage, and this is a topic that I'm extremely comfortable with, because I suffer from it. I don't really share too much about me and myself. Most of my topics and most of my conversations and most of the things that I post about are based on things that I observe. They're based on conversations that I may have. They're based on, just different instances that I see where I think it's an opportunity for me to kind of talk to everybody about it. What's up, Andrea True and Jamel? Thank you guys for coming in. Self-sabotage, if you're not familiar with self-sabotage, I think it's probably one of the most damaging things that you could do. If I can paraphrase and use the words of my friend C. Anderson, self-sabotage is what you could do to dishonor yourself. I think it's probably one of the most unrecognized, uncomfortable things that I think that we do to really not really put ourselves in the forefront of success, happiness, gratitude, and acceptance. I don't know about anybody else's experience, but as a black man, our self-sabotage looks a lot different. There's a lot of social expectations that are put on us. There's a lot of expectations that our families have for us, that our communities, and we internalize those. And those voices that in some way are not necessarily meant to uplift us, but meant to criticize and tear us apart. We internalize that, and before you know it, it becomes a part of our psyche. It becomes a part of self-limiting thoughts. It becomes a part of what we use to make decisions. Brothers, I don't know about many of you, but some of absolutely, Dr. Kenny, it does spill over into other aspects of our lives, in the workforce, parenting, with our friends, in the bedroom. It does spill over. Growing up, my mother was not the most wise in executing her criticisms, because she was only doing to me what was done to her. And when you are a young parent, you don't necessarily have the faculties or the tools or the wisdom to be able to understand and really break through that, especially, and I'm just going to say this, if you are of a certain lower socioeconomic status. Because we all know that poor people don't have the resources, don't have the education, don't have the access to mental health tools that are meant to rehab us from a lot of the traumas that we experience as people of color. So when we think about some of that psychological damage that's being passed down, Self-sabotage is a part of the process. My mother used to tell me, you're lazy. My father used to tell me, oh shit, I hope you grow up to be so-and-so. I'm not even going to get into you what he used to say to me. But it used to be very damaging. And even as a kid, I knew that these motherfuckers are just saying shit to hurt me. Because they can find better language. They're adults. But they choose not to. It was a choice. In my mind at the time. And so those things stay with me. And when you get into a workforce, when you are a black man full of a room and of white established men, there's always that unnecessary voice that's in the back of your mind. Why am I here? Am I good enough? Dr. Kinney says many of us come from young parents with low incomes, which is why a lot of us are so close to our grandmothers, who many times more mature and ready to parent than our actual parents. Yeah, definitely. Definitely, and I want to come back to that. But when we're in these, and this is just one example, when we're in these rooms, and y'all share this if this resonates with people, because too often this message is bigger than the people that are viewing. We need to circulate this with our followings and our platform so we could expand the conversation. So do me a favor and share this. Too often, and I'm just going to go back to the example, when we're in these rooms where we're the only black person and we ask these self-limiting, self-sabotaging questions, when we self-sabotage in those rooms, am I good enough? Do I belong here? It is a distraction. We can't even focus on the task at hand. In my industry, the way that I speak, the way that I carry myself, my confidence, you know how many times I've been asked, where did you go to school? Where are you from? And it's not a casual indication. This is something that, in my mind, the self-sabotage attaches itself to those voices, those indications that I had given myself. So self-sabotage is a very real thing. It's very real, and that's just one of many instances where it shows up. Kenny, I want to go back to the point that you made about why we resonate with our grandmothers more. The wisdom does sink in. And with grandmothers, there's not that level of responsibility and ownership. So grandparents can be a little bit more delicate because their reputation, their parental involvement is not at stake. And you get to go home. There's not a custodial responsibility if you are not, a dependent of your grandparents. So there's a different level of attachment. There's a different level of association. So I think that's why grandparents are a little bit more precise about the parenting techniques and the parenting involvement in some of these kids' lives. Because your parents drop you off, you go, you play, she sits down, she talks with you, she bullshits, or he bullshits with you for a little second, and they picking you up and you're going home. But oftentimes with grandparents, there's a checks and balances that they play in that relationship. There's no ownership. There's no true attachment there in the way that being a custodial parent would involve. So the wisdom has an opportunity to manifest. It does. And so when I think about that, or when I think about the attachment to these self-sabotaging thoughts, it's time we break free of them. It's time we break free, because self-sabotage thoughts are impressions. Because we're not born with this instinctive ability to defeat ourselves. Because, as they say, self-preservation is the first rule of law. So why would you intentionally create something without any sort of outside influence against yourself? That makes no sense at all. These are all environmental circumstances that we have to deal with and impressions that are left on us. You said, Dr. Kenny says, what do you think about black fathers wanting to clone themselves into their sons? Well, I think it's delusional. You missed your opportunity. I think a lot of fathers are wanting to live vicariously through their sons. I was one of them. My father wanted to play baseball, and he played baseball, in terms of, scholastic sports, but he was never really pro. I don't think he was good enough to go pro. Sorry, Dad. But you weren't. You know that. My father's deceased. And so oftentimes what he wanted to do was just to put me in that arena. And I was not that kid that even wanted to play sports. I was a nerd. I wanted to go and read encyclopedias and dictionaries and shit like that. I wasn't trying to get out there and play no fucking sports. That wasn't me. If you wanted to do that, go find a mentor at a baseball camp. Go do that. I'm not the one. I wasn't the one. And yes, I appreciate sports today, but I'm not ready to sit there and have a 2-hour conversation with you on sports. I'm a nerd. Tried and motherfucking true. That's never been my story. That's never been my journey. So fathers who wanted to really implant themselves into their sons' lives, I think that's where you make the mistake of bonding. And I think that's where self-sabotaging with these young boys start. Because I think a lot of times these fathers, they want to create this template that really has nothing to do with who these young men are. And these boys want to be able to live up to your expectations. And when these fathers are disappointed because their sons are something else that they can't recognize or understand or relate to, they become dismissive. They become uninvolved. They become unpassionate about the relationship and guidance that they need to institute into their sons' lives. So what do I think about it? I think you need to get over it. You missed your opportunity to be who you needed to be at that age. Now it's time for you to become the old man and really give these young men and your sons guidance. And step out of the way. And if you don't know how to provide guidance, introduce them to someone who can. It's okay. You don't have to know everything. None of us do. But for the people who do, give them the proper guidance to be able to introduce that person to someone who can relate to them, to someone who can give proper guidance, to someone who can give proper instruction, to someone who can give a healthy way of being and demonstrating themselves in a proper way. That's what we should really focus on. We really should. Self-sabotaging is something that I've discovered that, even though I've always known it, it's become much more prevalent in my life today because I start to see less people who look like me. I start to see less people who have the same values and views and perspectives that I do. Particularly being a person who has spent a considerable amount of time on the East Coast between DC and New York, and I come to a place like Texas where they're all about abortions, but they can't stand for your ass to wear a mask. What's up, Gina? I think that it's really it's not really confusing, but it's one hell of a paradox to exist in. So I try my best not to allow these self-sabotaging thoughts that creep up to distract me from being pulled into dysfunctional people, because that's what they are. Only a dysfunctional person will project information, ideals, tools on you that would limit you in a way that's not healthy. So with that, that's all I had to say. Thank you all for coming into the morning, Get Down this morning. Get rid of the self-sabotaging thoughts. They are not there to serve you. They're not a compass to making you a better person. They are destructive. They are hindering. They are a hindrance. They are toxic, as some people like to throw that word around, which I don't like anymore. They're very, very, very inappropriate. So everybody enjoy the rest of your Labor Day weekend. I'm out, and I'm here if you need me. Take care.